Guys, welcome back to the channel where I cover missing persons, unsolved cases, crime news, and more. I wanted to cover this briefly because this is something that it's dear to my heart because I've been starting to follow a lot of this stuff and these horrible trafficking crimes. The FBI just had another operation which was called Operation Cross Country, that found over 200 SEX trafficking victims.
A nationwide operation led by the FBI rescued more than 200 victims of sex trafficking, including more than 50 underage victims. They also found another 50 children who'd been reported missing. The initiative, dubbed Operation Cross Country, also led to the arrest of 6 alleged human traffickers. The annual operation is in its 13th year and showcases the partnership between federal and local law enforcement agencies across the nation, all in an effort to track down trafficking victims. Joining us now to
I honestly remember reporting on, we had a video earlier, I believe it was this year. I'm going to find it and link it in the information of the video, where they had another operation that recovered other victims. And I love hearing about this. This to me is good news. It's making a big difference in this horrific business of trafficking humans. And most of the time, these are abducted children and people, or missing runaways, what have you, and they are picked up by the wrong people.
To talk about the initiative is NewsNation national security analyst and former CIA officer Tracy Walder. Hey, Tracy, good morning.
Good morning, Brooke.
So again, as we said, this operation is an annual one, a difficult one, no doubt. What goes into the investigation side of this?
So as you mentioned before, the really critical piece is the joining of local law enforcement as well as federal law enforcement, because the reality is, yes, many of this trafficking is occurring online, and the FBI has a vast amount of resources to help with that. But local law enforcement is on the ground, and they have contact with these human assets and are able to then share that information and pass it to the federal law enforcement. So really what it starts with are contacts on the ground. From there, it goes to the FBI, as well as the FBI using the assistance for the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. They are also critical in this effort as well because of the funding that they have.
Yeah, I love how this takes local PDs, local sheriff's offices that know their area. Then it goes to like the FBI, and it goes through NCMEC. It's a major, undertaking. And all these organizations work together to save these children and to bring these horrible monsters and people and put them in jail. I think it's awesome.
I think in listening to the details about this case, more than 100 children in just this one operation. Again, it happens every year. And there's a need for this to continue happening every year, which is just so alarming. How do these young kids even get in this position in the first place?
It's really unfortunate. About 300,000 children are trafficked every year across the world, quite frankly. And the United States only accounts for about 5.1% of those children that are trafficked.
That number, that United States only accounts for just over 5%, that astonishes me. Only 5% are from the United States. I thought the number would be definitely quite higher, but 300,000. I mean, it's amazing, and I applaud the undertaking that these law enforcement officials and they have to go undercover online, in person, and infiltrate these horrible rings. And I think it's work, and I want to say God's work. I really think it is. It's work to bring these people, these poor victims, these children for the most part, bring them back home, to their families, or if there's connection to their families, to these horrible crimes, to a better, more loving family. And it makes me automatically think of the Madalena Kojikari case, where law enforcement is believing that at this point she may have been trafficked, potentially by her mother and her stepfather through her uncle. So I think it's so much more prevalent than we really know. I mean, and I think a lot of these kids probably know, or they learn to trust these people, and they put them in horrific situations.
Really, a lot of these children, some of them do come from marginalized communities, but others do not. And what's really important about operations like this that have gone on for nearly 2 decades is, yes, it's obviously critical that we are taking these people off of the streets and reuniting these children back with their families, but we're also raising public awareness and providing a victim-centered approach to these children to give them the tools that they need to heal from what they have been through, which is horrific.
Yeah, we've been playing some clips too from the recent box office smash hit, Sound of Freedom. It's really brought the issue of human trafficking into the spotlight. Do you think that, people are really talking about this more?
It's interesting. Yes and no. What seems to follow a lot of these large scale operations when we're taking down these large human trafficking rings or child trafficking rings is we start to see members of the community who are very much ingrained in the community or popular within the community are sometimes arrested as a result of these things. A lot of times you'll see these operations and then in very quick succession, you'll see members of the community being arrested. And that is really starting to garner public attention towards this issue. And so I'm hoping as a result, things will change. But it's the public awareness around this that I think is so critical.
Exactly. Look at the Sound of Freedom. It's had a lot of issues within Hollywood and the nation's capital. There are groups of people trying to keep the truth hidden because they have connections to this horrific crime, and it's disgusting. And if they're a part of these rings, as far as I'm concerned, lock them all up and throw away the key. And I have not seen the movie just yet. I've been trying to get to see it, and I'm really hoping I can go see it this weekend because it's on my must-see list. And it's just, I think it's something that a lot of folks need to see. Definitely adults. I think it's obviously, not for kids, but it's something I think most adults need to go see and educate themselves on the facts of trafficking.
And do you think that we're doing enough to prevent this from happening in the first place?
Yes and no. I think from a law enforcement perspective, yes, I think operations like Operation Cross Country are obviously critical in taking down these criminals. But what I think the FBI has done more of, I was at the FBI when this first started, is this victim-centered approach that I talked about before. They bring in the FBI's Victim Services Division, and they do forensic interviews that do not traumatize these children any farther and provide them with services to help them and not recreate this cycle. And so I think that is the critical piece that was perhaps missing in the inception of this program that's there now.
Again, I want to thank the FBI, the local law enforcement, NCMEC, who is a part of this annual operation. And I know they have other operations throughout each year. And it was mentioned also that apparently Los Angeles and Tampa are huge hubs for trafficking, which Los Angeles I kind of understood, but I would have thought it would have been in Florida. I thought it would have been more of Miami, but Tampa is quite on the water there, so it's a scary thing that it's so close to home for me here, being in the Orlando area. But definitely this is something that we need to not, turn a blind eye to, and we need to be aware of this and do everything we can to spread the truth about trafficking, and hopefully we can save more children in the future, and of course the children that are currently stuck in this horrible world that they should not be having to grow up in. All right, guys, that's all I've got for this one. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and most of all, stay safe.